Right, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Great. Right. And script.
I am going to open the window though, 'cause it's bloody what? Yeah.
Okay. 3, 2, 1. Welcome, dear listeners. This is episode 101 of the Devon Dice podcast, recorded on the 11th of June 23. In this podcast, we will be looking back at the UK Games Expo 2023. I'm your host, Joel Wright. Joining me on the podcast today, we have Nick Shaw.
Hello.
You were waiting for me to say, do that again.
I was waiting for it.
Yeah, what happened to your standard intro?
I know. I know. Sorry.
There's a
Anyway.
way we do things around here. And you
Joining
stick to them.
me today on the podcast is Nick Shaw, the podcast resident board game designer.
Hello, everyone.
Still a delay. Dr. Lewis, the podcast classic board game player.
Hello.
And Sam, the champion of Clank Universe and magical internet things. That has also been added on.
Complaining about a delay, I jump in and you extend the damn intro.
They extended
This
it.
is an amateur event. Like, oh gosh.
I did that in for comedy value.
Yeah, someone extended it. I was just reading the script.
Sorry, how many podcasts have we done now?
Maybe we just change the magical internet things to over his champions.
Yeah, leave it as Clank thing. Magic, whatever.
You love a bit of Clank. Actually, I'm not sure, Sam. What is your thoughts on Clank? Do you like it?
Come back to me later in the episode. I'm sure we can find somewhere to shoot on it in.
Oh dear. Oh. So guys, it's a week after UK Games Expo, and actually at this very minute, 100 is still in the editing room, so it's a little bit weird. I'm still editing the last podcast and we're recording the next one, but yeah, should come out in order, hopefully.
No guarantee.
Release 100 tomorrow at 9, and then release this one like at 9:01. It's in order, isn't it? So
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, how are we all feeling? How are we all doing?
I've caught up on sleep mostly now.
Yeah, it's taken a while. I'm still not entirely sure
tiring.
I have, but yeah, it was good.
Great fun, but exhausting, as always.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well,
If there's one thing I love, it's the whole weekend without any sleep.
Yeah, but that wasn't because you were playing games. It was
No.
hotel related.
we'll get that back. Yeah, I mean, today actually, me and Claire's just been spending all day researching travelling to Essen in October.
Nice.
I don't know if Lewis is still coming with us, so we're making alternative plans.
I got your message. I immediately messaged my mate, so I will get back to you
right.
probably within a few days.
Okay. So yeah, we were looking at alternative ways of travelling, not by car, and seeing like if it was cheaper else getting there.
By airship.
Yeah, airship. At this rate, it might be quicker. If I leave now. So let's move along with the news. So first off, and this is kind of a little bit old because of like other things being done first, but Quackalope, the YouTube channel, famously known for doing lots of board game content, has been accused for asking for money to redo a negative review they did on a game, which is quite interesting if you read. So the company that's accusing them of it, and I can't think who it is now. Nick will be able to fill it in here.
Into I'll have a look.
Yeah. They basically put a post up saying that they were basically not being blackmailed, but coerced out of more money, as Quackalope has released their negative review of the game, of their Kickstarter game, and to change it to a positive review, they were asking for in the regions of £7,500 or dollars, which is quite a lot.
Into
of money.
the Unknown is the publisher.
And the board game we're talking about.
is Aeon Trespass Odyssey.
Yeah.
Yeah, another Kingdom Death nonsense.
It's very much like Kingdom Death Monster. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yawn.
So this this post appeared on Reddit 22 days ago now from date recording, so it's a little bit old. I don't think it is the publisher writing this, but it is someone who's spoken to the publisher saying that the publisher said this, that they I don't know how to describe it really. Let me think about how to word it.
They extorted them, essentially.
That's
what
it.
they're
It's
saying.
extortion, isn't it?
It would be extortion, not blackmail. But if that was what had happened, that is what it would be. It is an accusation. It's they haven't shown proof of it. They do say they have proof of it. The guy who runs Quackalope did put up a response video, which I only found today. On a response.
That was a troubling watch, wasn't it? God, I couldn't make it more dull if you tried. It's so annoying.
It was 30 minutes of him to say sorry. Yes,
it was half an hour.
Missed that.
The first 10 minutes of him was banging on about how he was at some Israel Jewish.
Yeah, he's a retreat in Israel.
I don't know why that's got anything to do with your apology. It's classic American. It's like they instantly go to like, oh God this and God that, and that suddenly excuses me. I'm really pious, and that excuses me for making bad choices. I don't really understand it, but I guess it's very.
But I think the bottom line of it was that I think it very likely was a misunderstanding or miscommunication, and it was blown out of proportion. But I don't think there is. I think there's blame probably on both sides. But the guy did acknowledge faults that he'd done, and I think the timing of the release of the videos didn't help.
But I mean, the whole thing is nonsense, though, isn't it? Like, I do make a lot of jokes about it. Like, it's that side of the industry. I do make a lot of jokes about it, and I with like mocking Rado, like, oh, was it another good review? Was it? And with all this constant paid content saying how great things are. That just the whole thing is rotten to the core. Like, it's just stupid. Like, adverts posed as reviews, and they're all, it's absolute, kind of nonsense, and I find it so frustrating. And like the guy in the video at one point, where he's trying to justify it, he's saying like, oh yeah, it's like over 30 hours of me reading rules and playing games. Well, I'm sorry, mate, I do that for free, and I pay for the game, and I enjoy it, and then I talk about it afterwards. I don't go to the publisher and expect them to not only give me the game for free, but pay me $7,000 for doing it. Like, I do it because I love it, and then afterwards he's like, I love this industry, I love the board gaming community. It's like, well, you obviously don't love board gaming that much if you consider playing a board game, that is your style of game, a chore, and that you think that should be counted as work hours. It's absolutely ridiculous. The whole idea is stupid. It drives me mad.
Paid previews it's a controversial topic, and it always has been.
Yeah.
About whether content creators should be paid for doing previews. I have no problem with them doing previews as long as they don't do thoughts on their opinions.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they're being paid, then they are inherently biased if they're being paid.
Isn't the other thing here that he's basically done it off his own back, and then
they bought a copy of the game themselves, or something like that. It's quite unclear about the details.
We don't kind of like phone up the publisher after buying a game saying, oh yeah, we're going to shoot a video of this, and we want someone to teach us how to play it properly, please.
Yeah,
because that's some their time. He's like, they don't invoice you for that time if they were.
Exactly.
No thanks.
And that's effectively what happened, is that they shot all the videos beforehand, and then we're going to put them up, and then they contacted the publisher. The publisher wouldn't give them send someone to teach them, so they got a friend to learn it and teach it, and then they do the recording. And then they kind of put some of it up, and then this guy went on this retreat for 5 or 6 weeks, and so there was lack of communication there. And then they decided they wanted to say, well, we think we've learned the rules wrong, and the review is negative. So do you want to pay us to?
And actually, what they should have done
is again and learn it properly.
Played the rules wrong, so we're going to retract our review first. I think that's where the blackmail bit comes in. It's like, we did it wrong, but we thought it sucked because we played it wrong, actually. So, either way, I think it's...
I don't think they actually... I very much doubt they actually said, pay us this money or we won't put up
He sent an invoice, basically, didn't he? Say, we've done 30 hours of work on this.
That kind of thing. Yeah.
Which is
so it's and I think it was blown out of proportion. But as I said, I think there's blame on both sides there.
Mostly on Quackalope, though.
Mostly on them for preemptively doing all the work and then
expecting
trying to get money out for it.
Yeah, I think so.
But it's just, again, I can't get over the odd concept. Like, it's just so silly. Like, this isn't like, somebody who is writing a rule book or, designing the art for the game or, coming up with a design of the game. People like actively involved in the production of the game. These are just kind of, a lot of these people, I mean, are either just kind of advertisers or just people like us, like people who just have played lots of games and like to play games. I can understand. I think it's because in other industries, like let's take another kind of sport, for example. Like if you want to make money out of your hobby, which essentially what board gaming is, you generally have to be, exceptional at it, don't you, to turn professional. But because board gaming doesn't really have any kind of proper kind of professional league, it would be almost impossible for a lot of games. You can't really kind of do that, can you? I think that's almost a good thing. Keep it amateur, like rugby union.
But the best you can expect, I think, from let's say a content creator's perspective, is that you get to a point where publishers actively want to engage with you because you have a sufficient followership to make it worthwhile. And I think the best you can expect at that point is essentially free games, invites to special events, whatever. But you're hardly ever going to make any money from it.
No.
I mean, unless you do something like Paul, who, we were hoping would be on the podcast to talk about it as well. Unless you're someone like him who basically takes their hobby and goes, I'm going to run with it and help write rule books and actually be try and make do something within the industry directly.
He does. I mean, Paul does rules videos, doesn't he? He does playthroughs and rules, which is very different than doing
as well.
A review or a preview.
Yeah, he also writes the rule books as well. Like that's
he helps write the books too.
It's a very different thing.
Yeah, that's not.
This is people like us that are just going, I want to make a video about something and make it my hobby. Again, making it your hobby into a essentially trying to maybe engineer it into some kind of income. But in terms of content creation, the only way to do that is to get your followers leveled up to make it work. And you basically get your YouTube dollars coming in. So, and the trouble is with board gaming, it is a popular pastime, but it's nowhere near a lot of the other content creation.
It's a fraction of, if you look at video games, it's a tiny fraction, less than 1% of the.
Well, everything is a fraction of video games. That's every entertainment industry is a fraction of video games.
So I think it's
more than the music and film industry combined. Computer game industry, mate.
Yeah,
ridiculous, isn't it?
So we'll put the links to these up with the note and the response, so people can make their own minds up. We'll see how it goes. I mean, Quackalope has still got 43,000 subscribers on their YouTube channel, so it's clearly not dramatically affected them. No. They've lost a percentage, but not a huge percentage.
But I think it goes to show the sort of state of the thing that actually, when this news broke, I thought, that sounds like an interesting story, and I hadn't even heard of this guy. So and I've been in the hobby for like 12 years.
Yeah,
I've seen quite a few videos of his, but generally I don't tend to watch those kind of videos for information.
I've never heard of him, but again, I've got a bit of an issue. I don't even watch Rado videos or very few Dice Tower videos these days because I don't trust that anything in it is of any sense. Having been stung a couple of times where you've gone, that sounds like a really good review. You go buy it and the game is absolute poo, and then you find out later, actually it's because they just paid for an opinion. I can't trust it, so I don't really go near it.
No, I mean, I've only heard of him because they do a lot of CMON content, especially for their Kickstarter product. So they seem to be like first priority for CMON to send their stuff to, and they always do like videos for it. And a lot of it is like, this is long and winded, or it's like clickbait kind of thing. So that's the only time I've really come across them. The only other thing I was going to say is I don't receive any now, but when I did get sent review copies of game, I'm really happy with that. I mean, to think that people pay people or companies pay people just to like review a game and things like that is nothing I've come across. And actually, even receiving a game to review is still a lot of pressure, and that's I prefer not to receive them at the minute. And typically,
and you should declare it, shouldn't you, as well? If you're being paid, I mean, and a lot of YouTubers do that because they have the stamp on the video saying this is a paid preview, and they will often note it in the video.
But when we did used to get lots of stuff through like from the publisher and stuff like that, and we used to review it. Part of the problem is you say, oh well, we got this review copy, but a couple of times we didn't like it, and then you're like, well, do we just give a negative review or no review? A lot of the time we did kind of no review rather than upset the publisher. But sometimes you would do a negative review because that's the whole point of having we got a free copy, but it doesn't affect our opinion. And then of course then you never hear from the publisher again. It's and
I mean,
they should make better games. Bad games.
It's like they've created the problem themselves. They're moaning, oh look, these content creators are holding us, extorting us. But then the people who genuinely want, who don't want to give a genuine opinion, who don't demand money for it, are unfortunately not always going to give you shining reviews, and you have to take that on the chin. Do you know what I mean? It's very they won't do that. It's very odd.
Spiel des Jahres and the Kenner Spiel des Jahres nominees have been announced. So the Spiel des Jahres nominees are Dorfromantik. I'm sure Sam will correct that. Fun Facts and Next Station London. So none of these I've played. I've got Dorfromantik. It's sitting on the shelf ready to play. But the other two.
Well, so Lewis and I played this at the expo.
Yeah, we've had a game, haven't we, Nick?
It's a one game. So it's kind of a campaign game in that it kind of like My City in that you unlock more bits for the game to do as you go. So this is based on one play of the base original game, but it's based on the video game, and it's a very calming Zen-like game where it's very gentle, cooperative. And it was fine. I think, Lewis, you described it best as cooperative Carcassonne.
Yeah.
But lighter than Carcassonne. It was very light. Kind of Spiel des Jahres. It's the level I would expect for Spiel des Jahres. I don't know. I think if it was just that base game, I would not understand why they put it in the nomination because I don't think it's innovative enough. But I don't know how the unlockable bits change the game. So I don't know if you've played any more of it, Lewis.
Not had the chance yet because I've been playing good games. So I don't get it. I'll bust it out. I've got young kids, and so I'm very happy to do that. And they like Carcassonne, so I imagine they will like this. It's for our one quick game, wasn't it? And so it's very hard to judge. But I'm going to keep an open mind. But at the moment, my review is I don't get it.
I think that's been a lot of the reaction to it. Because it's based on the video game, which you don't really score, you do play it to enjoy it, and this is very much like that. You're playing it and you get a score, and it has kind of a scoring table, but it doesn't really matter at that point. I did look up the scores, so we didn't do too badly, Lewis.
Oh really?
They said above 90 was a decent score, and we got 93.
So
that's not bad.
We're decent.
Not bad at all. Yeah,
but one thing I will say about it though, like you think like, oh, you want this Zen, that kind of Carcassonne, you make this kind of world, don't you? Like this map, and it looks quite cool. It looks like it's obvious a world. The art on Dorfromantik was terrible. It's just like blocks of color. Like I don't really get it. Like here's your yellow block.
I think they could have made it more. Yeah,
but
I think again, it is copying the video game art style.
Is that what it is?
Which was very like that. Yeah,
but I don't get it. It doesn't even like you finish. You're like, there are some tiles with some colour blobs,
and then you finish, and you get a score, and you go, "Oh, that's nice."
That's like, oh, and then we even finished it. We're like, "Oh, is that a good score? I don't know." Like, it's all just a bit odd, isn't it? I didn't.
But for a Spiel nominee, I think with the unlockable bits, maybe it will be justified. We'll see.
Time will tell. I'll play through the whole campaign with the kids, and we'll see what happens. But at the moment, we've got much better games that we've been busting out. So
yeah, I'm looking forward to giving it a play.
It's perfectly playable.
We'll be able to soon. But I think Next Stop Tokyo is on Board Game Arena, so I don't know if that's any different to London.
They're both on there, actually. Yeah, so Next Station London and Next Station Tokyo are on Board Game Arena.
So maybe you can have a play of those.
I've played London. Yeah, I've played London before in person. One of the guys on our Wednesday night group brought it a few months ago. It's fine. It's a decent roll and write. Well, not roll and write, flip and write. But I mean, it just feels like there's nothing innovative.
Just another
there.
flip and write.
Yeah, it's no different to.
And I like Matthew Dunstan's designs. It's a Matthew Dunstan design, and
Matthew Dunstan again. I do like Matthew Dunstan.
So I like some of his designs, but I also find some of his designs can be a little too basic for my liking.
I find,
but then it's in the Spiel. It's not a Kenner, so
I find
you always expect Spiel nominees to be just that have that little bit of interesting difference, and
I don't see this as having anything innovative in it.
Yeah.
However, I've only played one turn on Board Game Arena and I've watched one review of it, so I can't really state that. But so far, it's not gripping me as wanting to play again. Yeah.
It's got that typical flip and write / roll and write thing of it's a nice way to spend
draw
half
some
an hour.
lines. Yeah. Indeed, yeah.
I find that Matthew Dunstan is a very interesting designer in that on paper, like you read what the description of the mechanic of the game, and he's always come up with something very original, very creative, either completely almost like new mechanic for the board game, or an amazing twist on what you thought was a dead mechanic, and you think, gosh, this is going to be amazing, and then you play it, and it never quite kind of explodes. It's good. Like all the ones I've played, the games I've played for me are good, but it's never exploded and gone, this is amazing, as much as I thought it would when I read about it on the piece of paper. It's very odd. I don't know why his games won't just kind of fire, for me. But at the same time, they're good. I don't play them and go, this is terrible. I think I own 2 or 3 of his games.
Exactly. They are very playable games, and they're fun. But yeah, and again, I think this is slightly too light for my liking anyway. It's very light flip and write. But we'll see. And then the other one, Fun Facts. I don't know much about Fun Facts. I've watched a review video of it.
It's in that series of.
It's a party game. So
just one. And
indeed.
Top 10 and
it's ranking facts and seeing who's got it right. With arrows.
It's the sort of one that I expect one of our group to buy one day and bring along, and I'll be like, oh, all right, I'll give it a go. And actually, it's a fun way to spend. Again,
I'm sure
a fun way to spend 20 minutes. You know.
And it's nice to see a game in the list.
I think it's a de facto thing now with Spiel des Jahres. It always has to have that one party game type thing in there now.
Yeah.
And it almost feels like there's one board game, one party game, one roll and write. Seems like that's the kind of way it's going.
Yeah. That's the rules.
Yeah.
And on the recommendation list, interesting that Acropolis was on the recommendation list, which I thought would probably have been in the nomination list.
I would have
been very popular.
And another glaring one for me was Wandering Towers. I just can't believe that Wandering Towers didn't even get a recommendation. It's just insane.
I think that would have probably been in the Kenner, but it's not even on there.
And we'll come to the Kenner.
So moving on to
note.
The Kenner. So we got the Challengers, Iki, I think that's how you said it, and Planet Unknown. So Sam, tell us about the Challengers.
It's a cracking game, isn't it?
I know Sam's favourite games now.
Yeah, absolute dirt. I don't understand. I just don't understand how people consider it a game, let alone. I mean, you talk about the mind not being a game. At least I find it fun in the right circumstances.
I was about to say, this is for the man who bought the mind. So
Challengers is just not a game. It's just a terrible, terrible time to spend your. I mean, I couldn't believe it took so long on BGA as well. I was just like, please be over. It's not. There's another round. No.
It's the fact you have a setting to automatically play all your cards at once. Anyway, we should explain what it is.
What is it?
You do
the challenge. So the Challengers is this kind of 2-on-2 format where you are playing cards to beat the other player, but you can play up to something like 8 players, and you play, but you verse everyone in that game. So if there's like 4 of you, which there kind of was in our game that we played on Board Game Arena, there was a robot player. You basically swap seats, so you literally have to get up from your seat and move to another position to play the next player, which is kind of weird. And then you've got this kind of... You start off with this deck, starting deck, and then at the beginning of each round, you can get to draft cards from certain other decks to add into your deck you've already got, and then you can remove cards from that deck. And then when you've done that, you flip
that all
your deck.
Seems good.
You flip your deck down, and then you basically give it a shuffle, flip it down, and you're trying to beat the other person by outplaying them, by them filling up the bench.
Just playing a higher total of cards until you get a high total.
Or they run out of cards, I believe, in their deck.
Yeah.
And how it happens is you flip over a card, the first person flips over a card, that's the number to beat. The next person flips the top card over. Now, if they've not beat the original number, the opponent's got, they flip over another card. And if that's still not beat it, they flip over another card until they beat the number of the opponent.
Oh, yeah.
Once they've done that opponent's card goes to the bench, and that opponent then flips a card from the deck over until they beat the person's number. Now the cards
and you keep going.
And the cards can be modified by special abilities of certain cards. So it can give them +1 if it's a certain card or like that, or things like that.
You have no control over it because you just blind draw it.
Yeah, that's quite literally it.
And sometimes you'll have a choice about, do you want to put the next two cards, one on the top, one on the bottom? That's about the level of choice you get. And so all the decisions in the game are, do I add a card? Do I add a couple of cards at the beginning of the round, and then do I take away a couple of cards at the beginning of the round? And that's the only decisions.
I'm sure you just think, yes, I'll take the higher number card, please.
Effectively, you either take higher values or you take ones with special powers that combo with other ones you have. And you're trying to get cards that are exactly the same type, because then they share a slot on your bench, and you only have space for 5 different types on your bench. So that's kind of what that's how you're trying to deck build.
But it feels like deck builder, you have zero control over when those cards are played.
It's like my first deck builder without any control. They've taken Magic the Gathering and they've taken out all the choice in Magic the Gathering. So you build your deck beforehand and then you just automatically play it out.
Oh, hideous.
Yeah. I mean, if it had to be nominated for anything, it should be a Spiel. It should be a Spiel nominee, not a Kenner Spiel as well. It
is so light. It is unbelievably. I mean, I'm sure BGG will say it's a higher weight, but so we got this game for the group.
Snap.
We got the game for the group, and we played it on Monday. I think they played a six player game. One of the guys said, "Yeah, it was right. It was quite fun." I think the thing he liked most about it was moving chairs midway through. He thought it was really funny.
So he likes musical chairs. You just play musical chairs, then, for Christ's sake.
Most of the others said, "I will never play that game again. We should sell it immediately." Was basically the comment. Which kind of happened, yeah.
It's got a weight of 1.91 on BGG.
That's 0.91 too much at least.
Yeah, 1.91. 1.9 too much.
It should be 0.9.
Yeah.
So how it's got into the Kenner Spiel level, I have no idea. But if you do enjoy it, you'll be glad to know there's a Challengers 2 already been announced, which adds more decks that you can have no choice over.
I don't understand.
Yeah.
So do you change your card during the game?
No, between matches.
Between matches,
you can draft 2 in, and you can draft up to 2, and you can discard up to 2.
And where do you get the draft ones from?
They come from different level decks. So you got A, B, and C deck, and they get progressively better.
What, you're competing with the other players to get those cards, or?
No, you draft 5 into your hand and you choose 2. I believe that's what happens. It was hard to tell on BGA exactly whether anyone else gets a choice.
For a kind of analogy, imagine it's a kind of wrestling match and you've got your own team of wrestlers, and rather than saying, right, you're up, Dave, Big Dave, get in, instead you're saying, right, randomly rolling a die and going, player number 4, you're in. Oh no, you're way too small for the one that's in there now. Roll the die again, pick another one. Right, number 3, you're in. Until you finally get the right combination to beat somebody. It's just shit. It's just beat that if you want, but it's shit. It's so shit. I cannot.
Sam, what's happened? You're taking over my role. This is not allowed.
It's only because you haven't played it yet. Please play it so that you can whinge, because I need you to play it so that you can join.
You have to play it, to join us.
If I played it, I would get so angry. I would just be painful.
Lewis, you need to set up your Board Game Arena account and join in with us, because it is hilarious.
No, we'll do a lot, and I think we should try a live play one as well, because I think asynchronous was even worse.
Count me out of that. There's no way. I'm not spending any more.
Sam, you don't have to do anything. You just have to click OK, and then just run it for you.
It's true.
Automatic.
Right, let's move on. I played at least one of these games.
So Iki came out in 2015, so it's clearly only just arrived in Germany for publication.
Because it's Korean. It was a Korean publication before, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, but they did a re-release, Sam, because Meeple's Corner was banging on about it.
Yeah, they've done another second edition. So Sorry We're French is the publisher.
It is just a quick pause.
I've not played it, but I've heard some good stuff.
Just a quick pause. It's really annoying, isn't it, that the board game industry's like main awards, like the Oscars, like has a rule where it has to be in the German language. It really throws things off and takes out some very good games.
I don't know if it has to be German. It has to have been published in Germany.
I thought it had to be published in the German language in Germany.
I think it's got to be
It might say it has to be in German. But...
Yeah.
German language,
yeah.
Or language independent or something. Yeah.
So.
I should apologise. The original publisher was Japanese, I should say.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, as far as I know, it's meant to be a really good worker placement game.
Yeah, it's nice. It's kind of like a rondel worker placement kind of mechanic.
And it had an expansion out this year as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, at Expo being shown for the first time.
Yeah. I was hoping I went to People's Corner on Friday night to see if he still had his demo copy, but I couldn't see it on the shelves. Okay. So, yeah, I think he might have put it in one of his auctions. But anyway, so yeah, that looks like pretty good. I'm going to try and get a play somehow of that.
Yeah.
And then the other one is Planet Unknown, which I picked up a copy at UK Games Expo.
And the group's got a copy of this. What do you think of it, Lewis?
I would have to say, because I actually played it with the wife last night, and there is different rule sets for 2 players, Lewis. So
that would make sense.
Okay.
We played at UK Games Expo, but because we were the only 2 players there, we basically sat and played like a multiplayer version of it, not knowing there was 2-player variant, which actually makes sense when you play it. So this is basically a polyomino game where you're laying down different shapes to fill up your planet, and every time you play one of these tiles down, it's going to have 2 not factions, but kind of resource kind of things, which allows you to move your tracks. So you have these track meters on the side of your board, and every time you play one of these tiles, you get to move the tracks up, and every time you get to a certain point in the track, you might get special abilities or do extra things on the game. And yeah, that's basically it. The main thing with this is it comes with a Lazy Susan built into the game. In a multiplayer game, there'd be a commanding officer who's basically the first person kind of token, and they will rotate this Lazy Susan to where they want to pick their tiles from, and then everyone else can get to pick tiles where their pointer is pointing at the Lazy Susan, which is quite neat. I thought it's quite cool because you can either pick the tiles you actually want or try and screw someone over that's winning.
And you get 0 downtime.
And there's 0 downtime to the game. So it's really, everyone plays at once, which is quite cool, in that aspect. The other thing that I also added into it last night was the event cards, which kind of changes the game up a little bit. So every time you turn that Lazy Susan, you'll draw event card, which affects everyone, and it will either push your tracks up further or decrease them further, or it will tell you can't do this, or you have to do this, and things like that. So it kind of adds a little bit of extra dramatic element to the game, which I actually quite enjoyed and probably wouldn't play without now, playing with it. So that was quite cool. The other great thing with it is on the backs of the planets are asymmetrical planets, so they all play differently. And on the back of the corporation maps is asymmetrical corporations, which play differently as well. So you've got lots of random variants to it. And also, what I didn't know, in the Lazy Susan, the centerpiece can be lifted out and twisted around and put back, so the tiles are not always in the set. D-pool.
Yeah, you've basically got 2 tiles to choose from each time, haven't you? Either like a bigger one or a smaller one that tends to have more obstacles. But and then you can change those and they're all different shapes, but you can change around which little ones are matched with which big ones as well to add more variations. So that's not always the same. Although, all the tiles are also they're all double-sided, aren't they? But it's the same on each side, but they can
They're all different as well. Yeah,
they're all different. It's not a different shape, but with different kind of tracks, basically track triggers on. It's good, isn't it? And then there's also it's quite clever because a lot of the tracks have got effects that boost other tracks. So you could be like, I really want to boost my green, but actually if I boost my blue, then I can my water, I'll do that, and I'll be able to pick a track I can boost anyway, and then I can boost my green anyway, and then that lets me boost that, and then you've got your technology that makes the other stuff better. So if you got that one, then all of the other tracks as they're going up are better. But then you're like, should I have done that first? And it becomes. I thought it was good. It was good.
Yeah.
I think does it play up to? Is it 6 or 7 players? It's got some. And not the fact that would work really well because there's zero downtime, and essentially the only downside of it not being your turn is that you don't get the choice of what tile you get, but you still get a tile to place, and you still get the same bonus as everyone else. And there's just you could easily play 6 player with that and have no problem whatsoever.
The other thing, Lewis, with the 2 player is you don't choose where you pick from. It doesn't go. The turn marker doesn't go around people. It turns one spot along clockwise.
Okay, yeah. So you never get to choose.
You never really get to choose, but you can plan what's coming up. So,
yeah, that's an interesting little take on it.
So yeah, but yeah, we enjoyed it last night. The fact that when we got up this morning, I was making breakfast. The missus like, I think I know how to fill my planet up now, and I was like, what are you on about? You Greta Thunberg or something like that, and she was like, the game we played last night. I think I realised how I could have done my planet better. I was like, oh wow, that really did affect you. She's actually thought about it. So she goes, I'm gonna have to play it again just to see if my theory's right on it.
Nice.
So yeah. So hopefully this does beat Challengers. In it.
I mean, if Challengers wins Kenner, oh god.
Then that's it for Spiel.
Yeah, I think it's lost all faith.
I think Planet Unknown is probably going to have the edge on all of those.
I don't think so.
I reckon
this has got
just
to be
the actual new game.
Yeah, yes.
I've got to say, this could be like the first Kickstarter game because it's not been on. It wasn't long ago. It was on Kickstarter.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
So there is other content out there for it. They've done extra planets. And they're planning to bring out an expansion which will allow you to get all the content as well for it if you bought the retail version. So
how much do you pay for yours, Joe?
About £63.
Yeah, you can still get it for 63. I'm debating whether to just buy it. Tempting. It is quite good.
So yeah.
Good.
Ticket to Ride Legacy announced. So this actually also got the missus excited because she loves Ticket to Ride. It's one of her favourite games. And she's really enjoying playing Legacy games now. We've done Pandemic and halfway through.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Clank Legacy. Yay, clanking. And so, yeah, she was quite happy about this. It looks really good. It's like the same concept. It's being done by Rob Davio, Matt Leacock, and Alan Moon. So Alan Moon's the main design, the original designer of Ticket to Ride, still is. And then Matt Leacock, designer of Pandemic and Pandemic Legacy. And then Rob Davio is the guy that's behind all Legacy games, apparently. And so all 3 combinations is hopefully
I think it sounds really
bound to be a great idea for a Legacy game. And I said to the guy, I said to you lot, I'm pretty sure we talked about this in a previous podcast where we said, Ticket to Ride would make a great legacy game.
I'm pretty sure we did.
So,
or at least playing through all the maps or something.
Yeah,
it looks interesting. It's got boxes to unlock. It's got jigsaw-esque board that you're going to build on as you go through. It sounds fascinating. I'm really interested in this.
Apparently, it was shown at UK Games Expo.
Yeah, they had a preview version. I'm not sure if it was in the general halls or whether it was just the press event. But Stephen Buonocore recorded a video showing kind of unboxing without spoiling, just to show you what the box has when you open it.
Okay.
So there's a link. We'll put a link in the show notes to that video.
Awesome.
Cool. It looks fun.
Gloomhaven 2nd edition coming in 2024.
Well, they couldn't make it any worse.
I was about to say, Lewis, do you want to put your input on this?
Yeah, well, I've already backed it, mate. Whatever.
Yeah. Apparently, so this has been really, really redone, to the point that they've rebalanced the characters. They've noticed that some of the characters were OP, or some of them weren't too great, so they've rebalanced it all. Mm-hmm. They've redone a lot of the scenarios. They actually took away a few scenarios, but added more. So where they used
they realised the game is boring, and they've made it interesting.
No, what they needed to do was to introduce a few new campaign stories so that they could make people that already got the first edition and completed it buy
the second
another
edition.
one.
Yeah, exactly. As if they had to spend 200 quid at Frosthaven at the UK Games Expo.
There's a big backlash about people saying, "Can't we just buy an upgrade pack?" And because they were saying, "No, we're not going to do an upgrade. We'll just if you don't want it, just don't buy it." But so many people wanted it. They have, I think, now said they will do kind of like an upgrade pack for the first edition.
Okay.
In some way.
It still seems quite. If you stopped, then there's no point. Like I'm finished. We played a game with each other, but it was we did like 4 of them, or maybe 5.
Something like that, yeah.
It wasn't very many, and I've just lost steam. I've still got it on the shelf because it's like such a wodge, and I've got the organizer and stuff, and I'm just like, can I be asked to ever play it again? Probably not.
Yeah, I think Rachel and I played the first 5 or 6 missions. And I kept reading online going, "Oh, you just got to get into it. You've got to play the first few, and then it really gets really good." And I was waiting, and then I got bored of playing the same card in the same order over and over again. I may as well have been playing challenges.
I'll give it this. It's way better than challenges.
Sounds like the same concept.
Well, you do have control over which cards you play, so it has that. It's like
that's true.
Deck building.
True. One step up.
So yeah, I mean, I've still got the first edition sat on my shelves unplayed. So now I'm wondering whether I just sell that and wait for the second edition to come out, or not bother at all. But anyway, so yeah, CMON. If you go to their pages, you can actually now go along and pre-order Metal Gear Solid, the board game. So yeah, I just stumbled across this in some kind of news event. And it's not coming to Kickstarter. It's a miniature game. It's just on their pre-order page. Yeah,
and it's designed by Emerson Masucci as well, which is
Well, this one has a bit of a storied past, though, doesn't it? Because this was exclusive on Amazon, wasn't it? And then so they were actually taking orders for it on Amazon, and then it got canned. That was 6 years ago, and it got canned by the original publisher. So CMON have come along and snapped it up and said, "We'll finish it," and they've produced it. Which I guess is why they haven't bothered kickstarting. They just said, we'll just make it and set it out.
Yeah. Well, it looks great. I mean, it is a miniature hidden movement game. I might actually think about pre-ordering it because it does look great. It does look like it's going to like the original video game. What I do love is that you get Snake the character, and you also get Snake in a cardboard box, as he's hidden.
I've just seen that.
I just want it for that.
Yeah.
It's a little cardboard box miniature. That's brilliant.
Do you remember the original where you came across that really old sniper guy? I think this is going back to like PS2 times, and like there was a couple of ways of killing him. And there was one like just the original.
The sniper was a woman.
No, there was an old guy. It was he was a sniper. He was really old. And there's like you could try and just kill him normally because you could see the glint and then try and shoot in that direction, or you could just save your game, then come back in 3 weeks' time, by which time he had died, and you can then just go and collect his stuff, which was
Wait for him to die of old age.
Yeah, quite literally. That was a thing on the thing. That was brilliant. So
which games? It was Sniper Wolf in the original Metal Gear Solid, and she was a woman. I'm 100% sure. I know this game. I played this game when I was about 8, and
Is it Metal Gear Solid 2 I'm thinking of?
Oh, maybe.
2. But it was definitely an old guy, and it was like on 2 hills, and it was kind of like that old trying to beat each other at sniping.
Oh, yes. No, it was 2. It was 2, and it's like in like the poppy fields and stuff like that. And yes, you can let him die of old age. Yeah, I remember now. Yeah, or you have like a full-on boss battle with him. Yeah, it's 2. I know who you're talking about.
Jesus. I don't want to play a board game for 3 weeks waiting for my opponent to die of old age.
Well, you just have to wait 3 weeks on the next time he's not bringing it out. Right,
I play enough games. I play enough games where it feels like I'm dying of old age, waiting for people to play their turns.
Anyway, so that's coming out. You can go over and pre-order it now for $100, and you get loads and loads of stuff. Hopefully,
which is for a CMON game is not a bad price.
It's not a bad price, yeah.
I do love Metal Gear Solid. That's the problem.
Yeah.
I've never ever bought a CMON. I refuse.
But the good thing is, this isn't a real CMON. It's not on Kickstarter, so it's not going to have any of the problems you'd normally have with an associated CMON project, right?
Yeah. Sure. Why not?
I'm just trying to facilitate your.
I can see what you're doing, Sam. Here. I can see what you're doing. It's disgusting behaviour.
As you're pressing the pre-order button.
Yeah. Click, 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 click. Take my card details.
And last of all, Ravensburger are going to be sued by Upperdeck over the Disney Lorcana card game. So, Lorcana was shown at UK Games Expo. You could queue up and wait for 2 hours to play it.
People literally wait for 2 hours to play what looked like a very average game.
So apparently Ravensburger are suing Upperdeck because they're saying that the designer...
Upperdeck is suing Ravensburger. Ravensburger released Lorcana.
Right, yeah, sorry. Yep. Other way around. And apparently the designer had originally made the game with them, and then he's taken it away from them, and I think they see...
Well, according to all the comments, he had developed a system that is what is used in Lorcana, but is also going to be used in a game that Upperdeck are releasing soon as well. And Upperdeck say that when he left, he's therefore breaching NDA by giving the system to Ravensburger. That's what it comes down to. So it's not that they're saying that they've copied the game, because you can't copyright mechanics and things.
No, you can't.
But effectively, they're saying that this designer guy has breached NDA and that Ravensburger are doing shoddy practices, kind of thing.
So it'd be interesting to see how that comes to
Ravensburger obviously responded saying these are all baseless claims.
Yeah.
So we're going to see how that plays out. I think someone with Disney behind them might possibly be in a better position in that kind of fight.
Might have the litigation lawyers to
yes, indeed.
Yeah, I think Disney have got so much money. Well, they haven't got that much money in this, but I think they've clearly identified it as a big entry into the hobby. I think they're going to make sure that it has the launch it needs. I reckon there'll be some kind
even
of
if they settle out soon. Yeah, there'll be out of court settlement or something. Yeah.
I think it'll be like, here's $1 million, shut up, go away. Kind of thing.
Indeed.
Yeah. Last thing, actually, this is the last thing. Heroscape, it's back on the cards. So we announced ages ago that they were bringing Heroscape back out, but Hasbro was doing it on their Pulse kind of crowdfunding own version, and it didn't meet the goal they needed of 8,000 backers. They got to like something like 4,500. So then they scrapped it. Now Renegade Game Studios have now come in and rescued it, apparently, and they're going to be bringing it back out because they actually have all the back catalogue of Avalon Hill stuff. So they've already brought out stuff like Acquire and other games like that. I think they've even done Axis and Allies, which Lewis might be excited to know about.
I'm alright.
And now they're actually announced they're bringing out Heroscape again. I don't know how it's going to be, whether they're going to bring back the other version that they said about. That was on...
It implies it. It says they picked up the reboot, which implies it is the newer version that Hasbro were going to do. I think they just literally bought the new stuff.
Yeah, so yeah, that's interesting to see if it's still going to come out as that game.
If you're a Heroscape fan.
Yeah.
And Renegade are a pretty good studio, so...
Yeah, the price tag on the Pulse was $250 to buy the core game.
But then people who love Heroscape.
How is Heroscape different to Hero Quest? All those sort of 80s
little spelled slightly differently.
It's completely different.
Is it?
Yes.
How?
So
it's little models on a board running around, isn't it? Like
Heroscape is a skirmish game.
Right.
And Hero Quest is that kind of dungeon crawl game, isn't it?
Okay. So Escape is a skirmish game, right? Got you.
Yeah.
I never played either back in there.
It's not Escape, it's Scape, Heroscape, because you build the landscape out of like these kind of plastic hexagon tiles.
Yeah, it's like 3D terrain, isn't it?
And you build it up as high as you want, and you've got water, and all the terrain affects you and your movement. And
I'm sensing a lot of passion in you, Joel, about this.
You've not seen my collection, which most
you got Heroscape. I didn't know you had it.
Yeah. I bought a massive collection at UKGE Expo many years ago, which didn't go down well with the missus, but.
How many hundreds did that cost you?
A couple hundred.
Ooh.
So yeah, but it was something I couldn't pass up on. So
yeah,
but yeah, it's one of those. It's great to have, but I mean, to set up and tear down is a mammoth task. So, so yeah, I'm looking forward to see what it's like when it actually comes back out by Renegade Games and see what the price is. So, only quickly on crowdfunding. I know the guys said that skip it, but I just want to point out Crossbows and Catapults, another old classic board game, is being redone on Kickstarter, which actually should be launching very soon by Restoration Games. So that old game that we used to play as kids, again, great fond memories of shooting catapult those discs at your opponent's targets, which actually seems to be redone recently of Crossbow Kingdoms or Kingdom Crossbows. No, Kingdom Catapults or whatever it was.
Catapult Kingdoms was what it was when we've got it, but now it's called like Catapult Feud due to some sort of licensing issue.
Yeah, and I sold it all at UKGE Expo.
I've still got it. My kids love it. Reese plays it with his cousin a lot.
We didn't get on too well, so it'll be interesting to see this coming out. More details to come probably once it actually does hit Kickstarter.
More popular,
I clarified.
The main difference is looking at the BGG page is that instead of it being a rubber band based thing, it's all going to be spring powered now, so it will be a lot more reliable. So it won't just.
And you can adjust it, can't you?
Right.
Well, that's it. Yeah, it's supposed to be so reliable that it's kind of like every shot should go the same. So slight adjustments should be enough to really perfect your aim and stuff.
I have to say the one thing based on this, I do really like. I mean, I don't like many of the Restoration games themselves necessarily, but I love what they're doing and taking old, not necessarily even classics, but they're taking old games with a lot of promise even and just saying we'll lift it, we'll make it current, and it might, but without losing the spirit of that game as well.
Yeah, it sounds like you're trying to imply Crossbows and Catapults isn't a classic.
I'd say it is a classic, but it was a crap classic.
Whoa. You wash your mouth out. That is.
It was. All right, I'll put it another way.
Disgusting.
It was ahead of its time.
That is a better way of putting it. What, when you hit the door of that tower and a little spring-loaded thing shoots the guy up in the air? Oh, it's never has it been more satisfying.
Yeah, Sam's just a little bit bitter. They've still not come out with his classic game he wants them to redo.
Yeah.
What's that?
Lost Valley of Dinosaurs, baby.
That is a classic. That is
a classic. I mean, it's no Crossbows and Catapults, sure, but
it needs the Restoration Games classic. But I'm still plugging away on my own little version of it. So
brilliant.
Yeah. I think my idea is taking the Clank concept but applying it to that game.
Is it?
The Clank dinosaurs. I love it.
I think you can actually go to them and
yeah, I've submitted it 3 times.
So yeah, if you go to Restoration Games,
the trouble is with Lost Valley of Dinosaurs, it was never released in the USA.
I was going to say, I bet it's UK, not America.
It's UK only, so it hasn't got quite the cachet. And it's like Fireball Island was only released in the USA. It wasn't released in UK.
Yeah.
So it was like one game made it over here, one game stayed over there. It doesn't surprise me that Fireball Island was the one that got done. But I'm sure that if Dinosaurs had been released over there, it would have been done by now.
It must have been. It's that good.
Well, the other game by Julian Cortland Smith is Escape from Atlantis, and that was done by Stronghold.
Indeed.
To an inferior standard, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
The new one is not as good, I agree.
No. Classic 80s Waddingtons, please.
Mm-hmm.
With the spinner.
Brilliant.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. Awesome.
But we can segue. Go on. I won't segue. We'll go on to the next bit.
What were you going to segue onto?
No, I was going to segue into but it's a bit early. I just realised that we're doing thoughts on UKG rather than played games. But one of the games I did play at UKG was Thunder Road Vendetta. So that's another Restoration Games classic.
Yeah.
So
yeah. All right. Thoughts on UK Games Expo. All four of us attended. All four of us returned, thankfully. We did record a 100 episode there on a very tired Sunday morning. And which
everyone's already heard and loved.
Yes. So I do hope you enjoyed that episode.
Yeah, it's become a classic. More classic than Dinosaur Island. No, Escape the Valley of Dinosaurs.
Quite as good as Crossbows and Catapults.
No, well, obviously not. Don't be insane.
So they would have heard, actually, when you listened to 100, you would have heard that I actually took loads of snippets from past shows. And that's where all my time has gone into the last week of listening back to shows and taking snippets. And it's actually been quite interesting of how we started and how we and kind of where we got to, because it started really professionally, and it's just
I was going to say, Joel,
complete mess.
Does that mean you've actually gone downhill? Joel, does that mean you've actually done some editing? Surely not.
Yes. Yes, I've never edited so much in my whole life.
Yeah. You finally worked out what the scissors do in there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I can cut bits out.
But there was some. It was really funny because like the very first episode, I should have listened to these before we done 100, but I just didn't have the time in my life to do it, and so now I do. Yeah. I was like listening through, and like number one was hilarious. It was so cringeworthy. It was unbearable. Anyway, and then we kind of rolled on from there. It was so funny listening to, and then it's like listen back to Sam's first one, and we just said, "Oh yeah, Sam's on the podcast," and then carried on with the show. Never introduced him. Never got him to say who he was.
And we still don't know, really.
We still don't know Sam.
Has anyone actually even met Sam? Did you just sort of just log on?
So yeah, that was just funny listening to back there. I was like, oh my goodness, how bad was we? Anyway, me. That was me back then mostly. So yes, guys.
So UKGE.
How was your UKGE?
Very good. Very tiring, but very enjoyable.
Well, you had a different experience to us, didn't you? You were.
I did. Yeah, I was effectively working the whole time at the stand. But you get to see a lot of people doing that. A lot of different people.
Did you enjoy it, or like just had to bear it?
I always enjoy it. Sometimes it gets to the end, towards the end of the day, and you just think, I just want no one to turn up to the booth just for the next half hour, and then I could just stop and not have to run this game again. But everyone who played the game, I was teaching Fate Forge from Mighty Boards.
Yeah.
And everyone was enjoying it. Who came to play it. Some good feedback. So yeah, from that sense, it was really good to have all of that good positive feedback, and from all the other games we're demoing as well.
Awesome. Sam, you went up with a group of people this time. This is the first year you didn't work, or was that you went last year?
Last year we didn't, but we only went for I think we went for Friday and Saturday. But obviously Saturday driving home, we didn't really do a lot of Saturday, sort of left just after lunchtime. Right. So this is the first time I've done the whole weekend from Thursday through to Sunday. And yeah, fabulous. Really loved it. And it's the first time I've been able to do the whole weekend without having to work, and it was so much better.
Really cool.
I really got a feel for what the show can be like. If you do the whole thing, and I just loved it. I take exception now that I've done it properly, because I could never do it before working wise. working on Meeple's Corner. But a lot of people always say, "Oh yeah, Expo's not for playing; it's just for buying. Go to other cons for playing." It's like bullshit. I played more games on Friday than I did at the entirety of Aircon when I went, supposedly the biggest game playing convention.
Wow.
And I went all the way to Harrogate and played like 6 games, and I played 7 on Friday alone at Expo. So yeah, I call shenanigans on that particular argument. You can play games if you want to. There's not a limitation.
There were so many people playing as well. The open gaming halls and the Hilton gaming halls were full pretty much the entire time. Absolutely,
yeah. I mean, the Hilton. The only tip we picked it up from last year, is that the Hilton's kind of nice and empty until around sort of 2-3 o'clock, and that's when people start moving over from the halls to the Hilton. So I was always like, let's go to the Hilton's, get our table, and then put your beach towels out, and you're fine. And that worked every single time. The one time we went over a bit late, it was a real nightmare trying to find a table. We found
if you go in there at 11:30 at night, you're not going to get a table.
Not a chance.
It was so busy.
Yeah.
Lewis.
And it was the whole expo was busier. I think they've learnt from the last 2 years of post-COVID of having wider halls, wider corridors to walk up and down. But they say the numbers that they've announced, 32,000 unique visits, which is above 2019 levels. So it was busier than 2019. It didn't feel busier. But I think that's because 2019 they still had quite compact layout in the halls, and so people were squeezing by, and they're wider now, so it's easier to walk through, so it feels less crowded. But yeah, it's amazing that it's reached those levels now already.
Well, because you remember back pre-COVID, it was always like a nip and tuck thing between UKGE and Origins as like the third biggest. These numbers have blown it out. I mean, so we've got this year's Origins to go, but it's blown the number out of the water. It's always been 17, 18, 20,000, and now 32,000. That's 12,000 more than the record Origins attendance. So yeah, I'll be interested to see if Origins can keep up now.
I'm sure Origins has been done this year, or am I thinking it's that last?
21st of June, so it's in a couple of weeks.
Okay. I thought it'd already been and gone. I thought they'd done it early, but that's probably me thinking of something else. Okay, so yeah, really good. I mean, it did feel busier, but then I haven't been for the last so many years.
Saturday was just intensely busy.
I mean, there was points in the corridors that I was trying to move through and I just couldn't. It was you're either going against the flow, which wasn't a great idea.
That's always a danger.
And just, I'm going to turn around now and just go back kind of thing. So yeah, it did feel really busy on Saturday, like midday. And yeah, I could see those numbers. Like this is going to be a good number this year. So very good for them in that respect. Lewis, I went with Lewis and experienced a whole different side, because so normally I usually go as press, and I didn't this year. We just went as Joe Blogs, and just Lewis had this concept. He just wanted to play games, so I thought, okay, I'm going to do that with him this year. And Lewis, how did you feel it went?
Well, our whole experience was a little bit jaded by the fact that you'd booked us a crack den to stay in rather than a hotel. So we didn't get a lot of sleep, which meant that we were not in the on tip top form, and a bit more snappy than we'd otherwise be. But
just to give you just to confirm, it wasn't the one that looked like it should have been torn down in the 80s. We discussed this.
No, it was worse than the one that you saw that should have been torn down in the 80s. This one, I mean, if I were to describe it as, the decor would be described as blood on the walls, and that would not be a lie. Like, there's literally stains on the walls that you're like, I'm pretty sure that's blood.
That's where you made the mistake.
The carpet.
The game is blood on the clock tower, not blood on the hotel walls.
Exactly. That's completely wrong. Blood on the hotel. Oh god! The whole place stank of smoke and weed.
We had to change rooms, didn't we, on Thursday night?
Yeah.
So we walked into our room and our eyes were just watering from the smell of smoke.
I have never not finished a stay in a hotel, but we did not finish a stay. We stayed 2 out of the 3 nights and found somewhere for the last night.
Yeah, we asked for our money back.
Absolutely, yeah, it was absolutely awful. But anyway, I guess the problem with the UK Games Expo, actually a lot of expos in general, is I don't know what I'm supposed to achieve, because I went shopping on the first day while I was waiting for Joel for 4 hours in some sort of queue for bring and buy bollocks, which didn't make much sense to me anyway. I don't know. I mean, we spent 2 hours queuing up for it, and then they said, "Oh no, it's all closed." And then he spent another bloody 2 hours on Friday morning doing it. By the time that there was just 2 of us, so I walked around on my own. I had a look at everything, thought stuff I wanted to buy, planned everything, and then by the time kind of Joel was ready to go for a walk around, I was kind of done and ready to sit down and play some games. So that kind of really upset things a bit, because there was a bit of, I mean, I don't know how you can make people wait that long in the queue for bring and buy. It's an absolute nonsense. It's painful. Well, I'm annoyed enough at the bring and buy, but it was a joke this year. And then I guess, like I said, I didn't quite know what I wanted to achieve in that. Like, do I want to play games? But I mean, the thing is I've got a family I can play games with now. I've got friends who live just down the road I can play games with. I can meet up with Joel. I can go for a weekend in a nice quiet hotel where I can play games and have a lovely time. I don't know why I need to be in this jam-packed hall full of 30,000 people, all battling for a game space, and also why I've paid X amount to do it. It doesn't make any sense to me. I can't work out what the point of it is, and it's not even like the shopping experience is particularly good, because nowadays you just do it all online anyway, and it's not even like there was anything particularly cheap and you can get it online. So I don't understand why I was there. I think now I've discovered that I guess maybe a few of the demos was all right, but again, you can normally find something nearby, local club or something like that, that'll have games that you can play, and someone's got a copy of this game or that game. I think in the future, I don't think I'd need to spend 3 days there. I don't think it's 3 days worth of use for me. Now, I think the other thing is I was in Devon mindset from when I went last time, and now Joel came and picked me up, and it was literally like less than an hour and a half for us to get to the UK Games Expo. I was like, oh, I could literally just popped up for the day, and a couple of my friends here did pop up for the day twice. And I think that would be completely different because we live so close now. So I think next year what I'll do, I'll take the kids, I'll pop up for Friday, and then I will be pleased that I went, and that'll be the end.
Yeah. And I think that's true. It's you can do shopping anywhere unless you really want that one specific thing that's only sold there. But I think if I was going as a punter and not with a publisher, I would go just to try out demoing games that are not yet available to see what they're like. I don't tend to go to shop. I don't.
On the shopping side, I deliberately didn't buy stuff for the months leading up, going, I'm going to get that at Expo, and that was the difference, really.
Yeah, and then you save it on the ship.
That's my treat when I get there. Is to hunt the best price for that particular game or whatever. Knowing it's full, it's going to be there. If it's something that's not going to, there's a chance it will be sold out or something, then maybe different. But I knew I was going to go and buy.
And I bought a lot more than I thought I would. I bought a lot more than I thought I would. Yeah.
It's also the incidental stuff as well, though, because I ended up buying a T-shirt. There was a really cool T-shirt place that was a little tiny one tucked away in Hall 2. Really cool place. Made some really nice designs. I was like, wow, I love those. There's like a Cones of Dunshire shirt.
I'm finding there's more of those as well.
Yeah, I saw that.
Those kind of shops.
Yeah, and there's like an art print one.
Non-gaming things.
Yeah,
I mean, there's definitely a day's worth of entertainment there. I just the 3 days. I don't know what.
Yeah, if you're going there
hanging around,
specifically wanting to play games, then it's probably not the best. Well, you're always guaranteed to find something.
Like, if you're going to play games you already own, then it's pointless, really.
Yes.
Unless you're hanging out with friends. I mean, that's daft. We went, and we all knew there was a bunch of games that all of us were going to sort of wanted to go and pick up. We kind of already, because I went with the group that we play with on a Wednesday anyway. We knew which games we were roughly after, and so we knew we would have tons of choice. We also sort of, because there was enough of us as a group, we actually kind of were able, instead of it being like, oh, there's only 3 of us or 4 of us, we have to go and do everything all together, because there were like 9 of us, we could split up into different groups all the way through the weekend, and we were like, oh, let's go try that, who wants to try this with me, and all that sort of stuff. And it just meant that the games you were playing was always with different people as well, so it was always it kept it really fresh. And I played loads of demos, so it was really good. I mean, Saturday, no, because there's just no chance. And one thing I wish I'd known was it was a bit different this year. With Asmodee had this kind of like, you can go and book a demo table in this kind of closed off area, so you could play like Expeditions, the Scythe sequel. You could play Witcher Old World, which I would definitely have done if I wanted to try and do that, but I didn't know where it was going to be beforehand. And when I found out, it was too late. All the slots were booked. So and they also had we did have a chance at playing I can't remember what it's called now, Marvel Hammer, I think it was called, which is the Eldritch Horror reskin with Marvel. Dagger, that's it. And we turned that down because it wasn't really our kettle of fish. But I kind of wish I had sat down, because it would have been something different to play. But yeah, we didn't have a problem sitting down. On Friday, it was great. We played 7 games, every single one of which was different. It was fabulous. I loved it, and I know what you mean. This is like, if you're not that bothered by the shopping, and you're not that bothered by many of the demos that might be there, or it's too busy and you can't get very many of them, then yeah, I can see choosing to just do one day would make sense, especially if you're very close.
Yeah, and I think
it was brilliant. For 3 days, it was absolutely.
It coincides. I definitely really had a great time last time I went, but I think it coincides with a sort of a change in my mindset, where I'm not just constantly chasing the new and the next great thing. You know, I think that change in mindset significantly takes away a lot of the value of the UK Games Expo, I think. But
indeed,
you know, there's lots of people who do still do that, and I think that's fine.
New stuff, really.
I mean, this year, I mean, I went with Lewis and I tried this new kind of thought of it. I'm just going to play games, because I think it was like 19 that I went last time, and I met up with people and said, oh, let's go and find a hall and play it in. And this was like 6 o'clock. And we couldn't find anywhere to sit down. And we ended up walking around for ages until we eventually went back to the hotel and played one shitty game before we all turned in for bed. And then it was just like, oh. So I thought, okay, Lewis's idea is great. Saturday, we're just going to grab a table and we're just going to play games. And I think, yes, our Friday night was ruined completely from our hotel, that we barely got any sleep. So we kind of got in there tired, grouchy. We fell out over Brass, Lancashire, and I left. And we had to go and cool off over walking around the halls. And came back. But it was just, it was one of those that I liked the idea of playing games, but then I also had this kind of thing niggling at me. It was like, I'm missing out on all this stuff. And then hearing what Sam's been through is like, that's what I want to do at UK Games Expo, is to walk the halls and play the demos and see what else is out there. And I feel like this year it was not the right strategy for it. And Lewis's idea is great. If you live nearby, you can pop up for the day, you can do that and then go home. And I think next year... But
even then, I'd say that's not the answer. I think it's go and find that. It's like, I think on Sunday, after we did the podcast in the morning, we went then and over to those big demo tables over in the corner, and we got to play like Planet Earth and what's it not called Planet Earth? What's it called? Planet
Unknown.
And stuff like that. That was quite interesting, because now I'm quite pleased I played it. So that was definitely worth playing. I think we should have gone down that strategy, going around the booths and playing the games. I think to get the value. I think, but. I don't think, but again, you know, I played some good games.
Friday
the games we did play. It's just I don't know what we did there.
Yeah, Friday was killed off for me because I did spend the morning queuing up to get my games into the bring and buy.
Yeah,
it was ridiculous. I mean, I could label this year's UK Games Expo as the convention of queuing, because everything was just a queue.
The bring and buy was so busy.
We need to stipulate though. I think I didn't really do the bring and buy. I went in once, but I would say it's a victim of its own success more than anything. It's because it's become one of the things, and every year they make it bigger. I mean, this year it was like half a hall. It was huge. So it's not from lack of attempt to try and fix the issues, but it was just so. And when you've got people rocking up with trolley loads of games, like there's
like pallets
there with 160 games or something, you're like, what the hell? I think the only way they can do it is to say you either limit it to a certain, you say 20 games or something. If you want more than that, you have to pay or something.
You have to you have to have a stall to sell.
Or stall, yeah. The other way you could do it is to say, everyone who wants to put something in the bring and buy has to make a payment based on how many, your percentage changes depending on how many you were putting in. And then that would out bankroll saying, right, we'll hire hall 4, and that's the bring and buy hall.
Yeah.
It's the only way
I can see it going that way, where they have an entire hall just for the bring and buy.
Yeah, because it took up a lot of hall 3 this year.
It was size wasn't the problem. It was lack of the computers checking things in and out and paying people money at the end.
Having additional space to be able to have those checkouts would actually help speed it up. And I think that was the limiting factor. Yeah. It was just too many people.
I mean, once it was
also just going as a 2 was a challenge.
Yeah,
there wasn't enough of us. We were kind of just it was very close quartered, the 2 of us for quite an extended period of time, which I think we did well considering, especially considering the lack of sleep.
Yeah. I fully advocate having a room in the Premier Inn to yourself. That helped me stay fresh for the entire weekend.
Yeah.
I paid the extra to have a room to myself, and I think it was.
I would definitely do that next time. I think.
No, so yeah, I mean, it was back to bring and buy. I mean, once it was in, it was great because I could just leave my stuff there, and I checked in. I think Saturday night, and I was like, oh, I've sold quite a bit. And then I was just like, oh, that kind of gives me a bit of leeway now. I can go and buy a few more bits that I was looking at.
Spend the money.
I was happy with, and then I tried to go in Sunday morning and drop the prices in, and I got in there. But by the time I found a few of my games, the queue was also really big because you had to join the same queue as the people buying the games. So then I was just forget that. I'm just going to waste more time. So, we left it. I left and just kind of let the game sell, which they did. A few more games sold. And I then at about 3:30, I went back in and tried to start finding all my games. It wasn't too bad.
2 hours later, we got to go home.
Yeah, we did. It took a while. But... So yeah.
Shout out to Nightmare Live as well, because talking about the events. We'd never done that before, and because we had the whole weekend and I wasn't having to schedule anything else, it was just like, right, okay, who wants to do Nightmare Live? And 4 of us went to watch it. And oh my god, it was funny. Even though they had literally no props bar the helmet and the satchel, and costumes. It was just hilarious. It was really funny. I'm just disappointed that it doesn't seem like it's touring currently, which is really a shame because I was thinking, I've got a bunch of friends that would love to go and see this. So I'm hoping they do another tour at some point because it was easily one of the funniest things I've seen in years.
Yeah.
But again, that sold out ridiculously quickly as well, didn't it? Though,
that was a big difference.
Way before the show, weeks before the show.
Yeah, they were literally doing one of each show. So there was one dark room show. Yeah. There was one Nightmare Live show, whereas in previous years it's been, they'd show it. They'd do one every night for each of them, at least maybe 2.
Yeah. We didn't even get to go to dark room.
No,
dark room was right after Nightmare Live. So I want to do that next year now. But
I want to do. We got to Nightmare Live.
We got laser tag though. Laser tag was a lot of fun.
Laser tag was a joke.
It's so funny.
I can't say it was a lot of fun. I don't know quite what I did. I sort of had a guy
you ran around
in a big red.
That was it. You got a score.
Chatting Warhammer at me for a little bit, and then I got given the gun, and I walked around, and it didn't seem to matter whether I was at the back, nowhere near anyone. My gun kept on screaming like I was getting shot, or whether I was right in the front getting shot. It didn't seem to make a difference because I was just standing by their base shooting it, and then we won. It was just, it didn't seem to make any sense. Nothing about the game made sense. I'm pretty sure it had malfunctioned the day before and they were making it up and just telling people, it's working, you're shooting each other, it's fine.
There were there were issues with the hardware. But I enjoyed the experience. It was very silly and very fun, very funny.
I don't know, £15 for
my workout for the day as well, running around.
Having a laser was not...
they had to split the group because of the issues. I think it would have been better with the 6v6 rather than 3v3.
Again, I don't even think it would have been better 6v6. What would that have added in that tiny little room? Like, it was
more
bad enough that...
We've been on top of each other. It's such a tiny room.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Again, my main issue was, like I said, like I was carrying this gun, and it was. I just went to respawn after dying, and I'm literally like respawned, turned around, like didn't even have a chance to step out into the open. Like I'm definitely there's no way anyone could be shooting me, and it starts screaming like I'm being shot, like it's giving me the shot noise. It's like so obviously something's gone wrong. Yeah, I just don't think it related to nothing. I seemed to be shooting, and it didn't sometimes didn't seem to hit. Sometimes did seem to hit, even though the little light was on. All of it made nonsense, and I literally, I didn't enjoy it.
Well,
actually, that's probably inaccurate to say I didn't enjoy. I didn't have a horrible time. It was nonsense.
But again, we were probably tired, and
we were.
I mean, we literally did that Saturday, and normally on Saturdays, it'd be like, right, let's go and find someone a game, but we kind of done that, and it was like, I'm tired. Let's just go back to our new hotel.
We couldn't
Hopefully
do anything.
We're going to get some. We just got back to the hotel, ate, and then went to bed, and so.
Well, we were surviving on about 2 hours sleep, weren't we? By that point,
yeah.
Like, it was.
So the hotel pretty much done our weekend in, I think, and.
Yeah.
Bad choices on my part. I've apologised profusely to Lewis for my choice in hotel selecting.
Oh my goodness. How would you know, Joel? It's not like all the reviews warned you.
Who pays attention to reviews? As we said, they make no difference.
Maybe how much? Just out of interest, how much was it for 3 nights?
Oh, for £58.
But it wasn't even that cheap. That's the thing.
It's £58 per night.
58. So yeah, basically the same price. Were a little bit more than we paid to Premier Inn, and I had a great night's sleep.
Yeah,
not to rub it in.
It wasn't. Like I say, it wasn't even more. It wasn't even particularly cheap. That was the ridiculous thing about it.
Yeah.
Well, not considering it's got the photo. I've seen the photos now, and it's scary.
Well, I imagine for that price it came with its own smack, but they weren't sharing. So
that's how you got to sleep. You see, is that?
No, you can snip that off the coffee table that was in the room.
The really weird bit when we sort of like came back on the Friday night, and like in one of the corridors, like the door was open, and there was like kind of like scratches on the wall, a really strong smell of piss and shit, and sort of somebody just sort of sitting wide-eyed, like deep in their room, you know, like to the side, like staring out of the corridor. We were like, okay, keep walking. If only we'd known then what was going to happen that night. I tell you, it was an absolute nightmare.
May not have come with free snack, but it looked like there were free mushrooms growing on the windowsills. So
correct. Yeah. Or just lick your sheets. That'll get you high.
Yeah. Or diarrhea.
It'll get you something.
On the bright side about the UK Games Expo, and I'm going to bring it up right now, I finally got to play Heat and bought Heat and love it, and I've played it so many times because Heat is amazing.
Excellent.
I'm going to put that on your list, Liz.
Sorry?
Heat is brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so good. I've played so many games of it now.
I mean, for me, I enjoyed going back this year because it's been a while since I've been again. I did enjoy just being a person, not having the pressure of like being a normal attendee and not having the pressure of press and things like that. And I would do things differently, especially choosing a better hotel. But also, I would try and just walk the halls more. And I'll probably look into joining the Monday gaming group and trying to do a big group like that this time for next year.
Yeah, they were doing well, walking around.
Yeah. And having that. The bring and buy, I think I always do. If I've got games to sell, it's a great place to sell games because you don't have to worry about shipping and it's money up front. So
just be prepared to queue.
Yeah, I think I always do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's even though Lewis says it's bad, it shouldn't be done, but it's a way of thinning your collection down and giving money to charity at the same time. So yeah, that'd be for me for next year. Lewis has already stated that he'll probably only do one day. So
I think we're all planning to go back to because there's 3 or 4 newbies this year in our group that hadn't been to Expo before, and they seem to really love it. So I think we're already talking about organising it again next year. It's just a case of who's going to do which days and stuff. But I mean, I think the core group of us are probably going to go back for the all Thursday to Sunday again, just because it worked so nicely. It was just really good.
Awesome. And Nick will be probably working again.
We'll see. Yeah.
Anyway.
Depends what they're going to demo next year.
We're talking about you're talking about the not having the responsibilities of or the feeling the pressure of doing the press stuff, Joel. I've met up with my friends John, Alan, and Brian. The Tabletop 24 guys, and they just spent 2 days just trying to chalk off every single stall and doing interviews and stuff. And obviously, if you love doing it, then that's great. But it felt like I would never want to do that. In all honesty,
it's a lot of work.
Yeah, so much work, and then like doing all the video editing and stuff afterwards.
Yeah,
it's just, I mean, if you enjoy it and stuff, then that's fantastic. That's what you want to do. But oh my god, I mean, to be fair, when I made that crack about Aircon not being what it was cracked up to be, that was mainly because I was hanging out with those guys and they were spending most of their time working, so not playing games. So I think it would be a different experience if I went with a different mindset or a different group. But just see how hard they're sort of trying to work, and they seem to really love it, which is great, but not for me. I've done it as like a normal person, just kind of wandering around and checking out the stuff I want to chatting to people that I've never met at stalls that I've never seen. That was just really good. So I'm 100% in for the whole thing next year.
Nice.
Cool.
Right. Sam, do you want to talk about the games you played?
Yeah, I'll quickly rip through mine because I'm going to get in trouble with the wife. She's got to work tomorrow, and we've had a long weekend, so I'm going to rip through them. So at Expo, quickly, I'm just going to do ones we played at Expo. I played the Fox Experiment, which is the new game from Pandasaurus and Elizabeth Hargrave. Yeah, so the Heat Wingspan designer. I also love Mariposas. It's a really, really nice game. Don't own it, but I'm really happy to play it kind of game. And Fox Experiment's her third big box game, and I'm happy to report that it's also really good, really clever, interesting game. It's kind of got like a roll. It's like a roll and write, but a board game. It uses roll and write mechanics. It's not a roll and write game. It uses roll and write mechanics. So the idea being that you have you're kind of breeding generations of foxes to sort of see if you can domesticate them, and the idea being that you roll dice to sort of see how to just basically get the trait, get a number of traits that you then write onto these dry erase cards, these puppy cards essentially, cub cards, sorry, and then those cards become the new breeding pairs for the second generation, and then they help create the resources for the trait, or resources to traits for the third generation, which you mark on the cards, put that up to the supply for selection, essentially drafting for each player to kind of take another mating pair to sort of keep this kind of generational improvement essentially of the traits. So you might be trying to reduce the barking noise, you might be trying to make their ear, like make their physical characteristics more domesticated and that sort of stuff. Just really, really nice, really clever kind of mechanics with a bit of resource management / kind of little bit of sort of set collection-y stuff, because you've got this kind of board with different sort of special powers on, because you can cash in certain numbers of your traits. So instead of putting them onto the cub cards to increase their score, essentially, you are using those traits to kind of upgrade powers. So you might be getting an extra wild die that you can throw every turn, and that sort of stuff, or increasing the sort of various actions that you can take in the game. Really, really nice. I didn't expect to see Fox Experiment at the Expo, and there it was as a demo, and I was like, I'm in on that. Only annoyance is I don't think I'm going to be able to get the premium edition with all the nice bits and pieces now. So I'm going to have to. I'm sort of keeping an eye on it to see if it's going to be a retail option or not. But it's definitely one I'm going to be interested in getting when it comes out. Second game I played that I wanted to talk about is Phantom Inc., which is from Alley Cat Games. I think it's a new release, relatively speaking, new release. And it's kind of, if you played Decrypto, it's one of those similar team-based word guessing type games. But instead of
it being a good game, that.
Yeah, without unlike Decrypto, where you've got like a team trying to guess their own words, and essentially you're trying to intercept it. In this case, each team has a word giver or clue giver, and they decide which word they're using. In our case, we've actually decided, because there's 6 words on a card. I bought Nick, whose game it was, a D6. One of the dice shops had like a phantom die, and I bought that as a little present for him. Cool. Yeah. So we can roll that, and that decides which word you're going to use, which felt like a funner way to do it. But essentially, you might choose the word, and it might be, I don't know, let's say carrot. And then what will happen is each team will choose 2 question cards to give to their clue giver. That clue giver will then pick one of those questions to answer, essentially. So one of the questions might be, which body part do you use it with, as an example. Right. So if I choose to use that with the word carrot, I might say mouth. Okay, so I will start writing M, and the team I'm giving clues to will tell me to stop when they think they know what the answer is, what I'm giving. So I would write M, then I write O, then I start writing U, and someone will say stop, essentially, or silencio, as it says in the rules, and then I stop, because they think they start discussing. They're like, I think that says mouth. Okay, great. So we know what it is now. The other team don't necessarily know that it's mouth, but they start working out maybe what that word is, and then starting to think, what question might that answer, because they don't see what the question is you're answering. Then they get their turn, do the same thing. So you're kind of into, the interesting thing is you're trying to guess the same word, but with different answers being given to different questions. And you think that doesn't really make sense, and how is it possible? But actually it works really, really well. And it led to a lot of laughter, which is what you want from a party game. It had a lot of fun to it, because especially if you sort of get into the whole, speak to me, spirits, your answer is unclear, all that kind of stuff. It just made it a lot of fun. Very expo-y game, I guess. The third one I want to talk about is the game that I went to the expo with the full intention of buying, which is a copy of Ark Nova. A game I did not expect to like, let alone buy. After several plays on Board Game Arena now, I'm like, yep, that's a game that I just have to have in my collection. It's that good. I didn't want to believe the hype, basically, but it is very, very good.
It is good.
And I had to have it. The only downside is we needed a really, really big table to play it on.
Yes. Yeah, you do.
And there was only 2 of us, but we were taking over a whole trestle table and a half. It was almost embarrassing. There's no real reason for it to be that big. It should have been made to be a bit smaller, but it is what it is. But it is fabulous. I really enjoyed my play of that.
I'd definitely be picking that up, but my family's just a bit too young at the minute, just a touch too heavy, I think, for them, and they're not really even probably wingspan level yet. But that would be the next one that I would kind of go to before.
Ark Nova's kind of got the same vibe of that, isn't it? Since you're sort of getting your different animals and stuff, but this is super. It's much more of a strategic game, obviously.
Oh yeah, it's really heavy. I think it's if you do it properly, it's really quite a complex game. I never really think of board games. I never really kind of appreciated like complexity of board games until now, trying to teach my 6 and 8-year-old games. I'm watching them play it like, well, you obviously do that. Why are you not doing that? I don't understand why you're not doing that. I told you about you need to do that at the start. Like, just watching them blankly looking at me like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, oh, okay, good, right, okay. How has this happened? Let's go back to King Domino.
But yeah, so that's the 3 I wanted to talk about anyway. And all of them played at the expo, and it was really, really fun. So yeah, I'm over the moon with that.
Brilliant.
And with that note, I'm going to go and shut up so that my wife can get some sleep.
Take care, Sam.
Thanks, Sam.
I shall speak to you all later.
Cheers. Yeah.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, bye.
So yes, most of my games I played with Lewis, so I let him rant and rave about those. A couple of them I didn't play. One was at UK Games Expo when I was walking around the halls on my own because Lewis had pissed me off, and that was called Dodo. Dodo is actually a kids game, and it was the Cosmos stand, and I just looked at this guy who looked really bored out of his head, and I said, "Do you need someone to sit down and let so you can demo to him. He's like, yes, please. So I sat down, and it's really intriguing because it's this pyramid, tall tower stand, and at the top is this ball, and you release this ball, and it doesn't roll properly. It kind of wobbles slowly down, and it will wobble down these ledges you put around this tower. And the first ledge is there, but you've got to build these ledges, and it's a cooperative game. And how you do that is you roll a dice, and there'll be a symbol on it, and you flip over this token, and it's kind of like a memory game. If the token matches your dice symbol, then you get to put that onto one of the new ledges, and you're trying to find one first, just one match to build the next ledge. If it doesn't, then you put the token back down, and you roll again, and you flip another token over. So it's that kind of memory match kind of game going on, trying to match the two symbols up. And you're doing that, and you're just working together, and like the first path requires one match, the second path will require two matches, and you're trying to build this ledge before the egg reaches the end point of the ledge it's on. So it keeps wobbling down, cool. And it just slowly does this wobble down, and you're just trying to get it to the bottom to land into this little cardboard boat that's at the bottom. So you've saved the dodo's egg, and you sail off so it's protected. It's really quite cool. I think Lewis or kids would love this thing. Yeah, I did try and tell you about it at the UK Games Expo. But
you did, you said about it.
Yeah, Meeple's Corner's got a copy.
I think I saw it subsequently.
Yeah. It's great.
I think it was being played. I didn't get a chance to play it.
Yeah. It's a great little kids game. Quite fun, cooperative. Really, the gimmick on it is really quite good. That was quite good to burn 10 minutes out of my time. And then last night I went to Meeple's Corner game night, and no, not last night, Friday night, and we played Flamecraft, which is a game I've been wanting to play, and yeah, it's very cutesy.
The one with the dragons.
Yeah, it's something I wouldn't like jump at playing again. It's very inoffensive, very kind of like placid play. You can
that's what I felt like.
Yeah,
I played it.
You can go where other people go, and you have to pay them another resource. But you're kind of just like looking at it, like, if I go here, this will optimize this and things like that. And then you score points, and people do stuff, and it's like, I can go here and get more points, and then you've got this kind of random flip over a card that might either give you something to do while the game's going, or might score you points at the end of the game, which someone, like a couple of them did have it. I didn't get any of them, and mine were just like in-game scoring points, which I don't know if it helped or didn't help at the end of the day. But it was just one of those. It was like, I was glad I didn't back it, because I was backing it on Kickstarter. And then I was like, I'm glad I played it. I know what it's about. I'm not really bothered about playing it anymore. So yeah. Yeah,
I'd agree with that. That sounds about right. For my one play of it, perfectly nice, unoffensive game, but not something you necessarily need to go back to.
No. And as I said, I played Unknown Planet with the wife last night, and she apparently really enjoyed it. So looking forward to getting it out again when our friends come around on Wednesday night and play that. I think it'd be a game right up their alley.
Nice.
Yep. So yeah. Nick, you have a massive
list,
and I really hope you don't go through.
I'll be quick through my list. It's fine. So Dorfromantik we've already mentioned. Play with Lewis. Yeah. That was fun. Fun. Played it just 2-player. One I played on the Friday night while we were waiting for something else was Valbara, which is a new-ish release. It came out last year. This is kind of it describes itself as a Neolithic clan leaders settling once and for all who will rule them all. But basically, you're all playing a card face down from your hand, all simultaneously revealing, and then whoever has the highest gets to draft the landscape card from the middle, and you're trying to collect sets of landscapes, certain types of landscapes, because they all score based on how many different things you have. And the cards that you're flipping over, that you're choosing, everyone has the same deck of 12, but you only draw 5 into your hand at a time. and you're choosing one of those, and they all have slightly different powers on them as well. So the lower values tend to have better powers, but the higher values are more likely to go first. Or the other way around. Might be the lowest goes first. I can't remember. It was described kind of to me as kind of a more streamlined version of Citadels, which kind of I can see, in that you're trying to build up these landscapes cards and get sets of them. But other than that, I didn't find it anywhere like Citadels. It's not the same kind of card drafting and character play, but it was perfectly all right. It was nice, and again, it's one that I have no real desire to play again. It was a very basic set collection. I like the fact that all the cards have different powers, and you're trying to outthink what other people might play at some point. But in the end, it wasn't anything specifically special, but perfectly nice little card game. And then Saturday night, we were we'd been out for dinner. We spent quite a long time at dinner, and then we decided to go back and just try and play something quickly. And there were 6 of us, so we went into the games library at the Hilton, which was run by not the same group that run the one in the NEC, which we didn't realise until later. And the only one we could find that was 6-player that looked vaguely possible to play in half an hour, because it was about 11:15 by that point, was Magic Maze, which is from a good few years ago, cooperative game. And it does indeed say silently cooperate to rob a labyrinth shopping mall before time runs out. We weren't being very silent about it. We were talking quite a bit. It doesn't entirely work at 6 players, I will say. I think 4 is the optimal, because you each then control one direction. It technically works, but the way the
problem is that when multiple people have the same stuff.
Yeah.
So people go the same way and stuff. Yeah.
So the idea of the game is each player controls a direction that you can move pawns in on the map, and you, as long as you can move it, you can on your turn you just move it. You can all play simultaneously, and there's one big red meeple that you can slam in front of someone if you want them to do something. We didn't bother doing that. We just started nudging people. But in a 4-player, effectively, everyone would control one of the directions and would have some special powers about going up elevators and stuff. In the 6-player, 2 people had the same directions as 2 other people at the table.
Mm-hmm.
And the way it dealt out, and we played it twice, and the way they dealt out, the 2 directions were always next to each other. And so if one person would do it, then the other person would then have literally nothing to do, because they were right next to them, unless they happened to notice that there was something the other person had done. And it kind of took a bit of the shine off it. I could see what the game's aiming to do, but I don't think it quite got there with 6 players, especially when only one of us had played it before. And he admittedly didn't like the game, but he was the only one who knew it, so he said he was willing to teach it. And I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun, but most of the rest of the table didn't really like it. Which,
I mean, if you were talking, then you've defeated the whole point, I guess. Yeah, you wouldn't.
Yeah, we were talking because it was a first play, and we were trying to work out exactly what it is we're meant to do. I mean, we tried not to. We deliberately tried not to talk, but sometimes you just end up in you're going. You're stuck, and you don't know what to do now. You have to explain it. But I could see it working much better at 4. The other one I'll mention is
it's not amazing.
That's good. Yeah. The last one I mentioned is the one we got a demo of at UKGE, which was Scrumpy by Paul Harris. And Paul was demoing it. We only got to play 1 round. It was meant to be a 2-round demo, and Paul had very well scripted the first round so that he told exactly what to do. So
very funny demo, wasn't it?
But yeah, we were not always intentionally, but sometimes deliberately going completely opposite to what he was telling us to do, which was very, very funny. So it was very enjoyable time sitting down to play it. I don't know how much gameplay is in there without having actually had to make decisions about the game. I thought it was clever use of multi-use cards. I thought it was a perfectly nice game.
I can't comment. It looked like it would be a bit annoying to me. I don't know why. Just to get a resource, you need to do something.
You weren't knowing why you were having to do anything, because you were just being told to do things.
But also, but because of the multi-use cards, like when you get the new resource, it like comes from your deck. It's like, well, what if I'm burning the good cards? It's like, well, that's the risk you take. But I need resources, so I'm not really making a choice, am I? Like, I have to get resources. Like, doesn't really make any sense to me. I don't understand. And not just that, like, it could be a good thing because there are bad cards that you can end up getting, like I did. I mean, that was scripted. Obviously, I wouldn't have planned to do that. And so you get these kind of like the heat cards, if you like, clogging up your deck. And the problem is that somebody could take 10 heat cards, and then luckily, when they're making the apples, just get rid of their 10 heat cards. Then you could end up having one of them, and that comes out in your hand. But all your good cards go to your apples. I think we have to play a full game to see how it goes.
Yeah, I don't think the cards were that unbalanced that it mattered that much. I think all the cards you could use tactically, even if it wasn't a strategic play, you could tactically use them quite well. But we'd have to play a full. And I won't give a rating on it or anything because we didn't play a.
No, we can't.
I did very much enjoy Paul's run through of it. It was very funny.
He was.
He just told us it was the end of the round. He said, "So now you just need to kind of sit your person back in the chair." So we all leaned back in our chairs and didn't touch the wall.
No, so funny. You lot from laying back on your chairs.
We all leaned back. You didn't. You really laid him down on your chair, and we all just literally sat back.
And Paul just looked at me and goes, "Thank you, Joe."
And there was another moment where Lewis was trying to find one thing on his board and he couldn't find it. Yeah. And Paul was going, "Is that one? Is that one? How can you not know it's that one?" It was very, very funny. So a lot of fun, a good experience.
I felt if we were going to comment, I couldn't quite believe that was the final artwork. It looked very much like a.
I think it's stylized. It reminded me quite of a lot of distilled artwork, so it's quite a specific stylized artwork. I know you weren't too keen on it.
I played some very good and very bad games at the UK Games Expo. I'm trying to think what was I think probably the one that took the biscuit for the worst game would have to be Donning the Purple. Which was a game that we got from the renting library, but Joel does actually have a copy that's still sealed, and will probably now remain sealed until he sells it to someone else.
Yes.
Firstly, Donning the Purple, I don't quite get what it is. I think what it's supposed to be, it's a bit of a like Take That type game with like a Roman theme, and it's kind of like one person's the emperor and the other two. But oddly, it's a 3-player count game. I don't think you can play it any other player count, can you?
It says 1 to 3 players.
Yeah, you can play it 1 to 3, but I think people have said before it's best at 3 because you're getting the full experience of it.
It's an odd number, isn't it? 3-player, but it's just so odd. So the idea you can only really score a lot of points when you're the emperor, and even then, it's almost impossible because for complex reasons, especially, and then it's already hard, like almost impossible, particularly from the first turn. And then the other part of it is like the other two are then ganging up against you to stop you scoring points. So that doesn't make sense in itself. So as the Emperor, it's just ridiculously hard and stupid, and you've got these two people constantly playing these cards to make because you've got to try and feed all of the provinces, of which there's like some ridiculous amount, like there's like 25, and you get given about like 9 grain at the start of every turn. And then they're like, and then everybody starts playing cards to get rid of your grain. And it's just like these like random sort of Take That random cards. But what's hilarious is like if you don't make all your people happy, and you don't feed them all, well, you basically get killed by like presumably by the rioters or something as the emperor. And so then the next person becomes the new emperor, which is the person who's like put their person up in the top of the Senate, or the person who's kind of taken the heir to the throne thing. But what was ridiculous was they managed to orchestrate a couple of times where they essentially bumped me off, or you can try and assassinate them, and they assassinated me. But each time, number one, I had some magic Take That stupid card that just said, whoever's got the heir token, you now get it. So I got it, and then they bumped me off, and then I stayed. I just became a fully recharged emperor again, and it was like, well, that was a waste of time, wasn't it? I'm bearing in mind that it was almost. and then I've got an action as the Emperor to buy that token again.
Yeah.
For X amount of money. So I think it's 15 or something.
Yeah,
whereas the others have to wait for a magic card to try and get it. And it's like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, none of this makes any sense. Like, it almost felt like we were playing it wrong. Or just waiting for us to discover this rule we were playing wrong, but I don't think we were. No, and then it was just all sort of nonsense. And then you got to keep, there's some barbarians you're all supposed to be keeping at bay. But again, it got to the point where it wasn't really clear who was winning, but I probably had some points. It was the final round, and so it was in no one's interest really to keep the game going. So essentially, the game just kind of died. Oh, that was it. And then we weren't doing too badly. We were sort of keeping them at bay. I think it's like one of those things where if you run out of barbarian tokens to play, it's one of the ways in which you all lose the game. You know, it's one of those. And at the start of every round, you have to immediately draw these like five in a row with no response, like event cards. And the event cards that came out, the 5 event cards that came out in a row, like meant that like 26 or something barbarians had to be played. So even if we had like none on the board, of which we didn't have many anyway, but even if we had none, like we would instantly fail the game, and there was no way we could have done that, like beaten it. It was just really odd. Like it was just all a bit crap. I don't really, we neither enjoyed it. What do you think, Joel?
Pretty much, yeah. What you just said is, it felt like definitely felt like we were doing something wrong, but we went through the rules several times, and I think even Nat looked at the rules after the game was done and was just like, it doesn't make sense. How is you meant to get the air token off of the Emperor when he can just buy it back as an action, and you get an extra action compared to the other people? So I was quite glad I didn't take the shrink wrap off of my version. So it's been one of those games I've been wanting to play. I won it as a competition prize at the last UKGE Expo I went to. And it's been sat on my shelf, being needing to be played. So I'm quite glad it's still in its shrink.
I get the feeling it was one of those games that was essentially play tested by the same group of people, and it developed almost like a meta. Right, and it became so like they had their obvious way that you obviously always win, so they had to keep nerfing that, and then so now there's obviously like a path, but only they know it. So there's probably like a path where it plays really, really well, but only if everyone does these obviously best things in this order. But it's I suspect, but I don't know. It didn't play very well from my point of view.
Yeah, definitely. I thought it was going to be something completely different, but it wasn't.
No, it was odd. And then the other, we touched on Planet Unknown. We've talked about already. We've talked about Dorfromantik. We've talked about Heat. We've maybe discussed it. I think we've discussed it on other episodes. Fantastic racing game. First time I played it, and I bought a copy, and I've already played it with my mates here, and they absolutely love it.
I mean,
so that was
going
good.
with that, I actually sold my Formula D at UK Games Expo in the Bringer Bar because I knew I was getting Heat, because it definitely replaced Formula D for me. So,
I would describe Heat as the game I wanted Formula D to be.
Yes.
But Formula D wasn't. Formula D is internally disappointing with its, you master the corner, get everything right, and then you like fluff the roll. Whereas this, because it's a deck building and not deck building, but because it's deck management and cards, everything is down to you. You can set it up so that you've got the good cards for the straights as well. That's really quite clever. And the more I've played it, there's so many clever interactions that you can kind of do now, even just with the playing vanilla. But the game itself comes with so much extra in it. Like it comes with about 2 or 3 extra modules that you can play. There's a whole championship and championship rules you can play with a whole extra load of cards from sponsorship and stuff like that you can get. Weather modules, and then the game itself comes with 2 double-sided boards because of 4 tracks as standard. So I thought that was pretty good.
It is really good.
Yeah, pretty good for its money. And the last one, come on then, let's get on with this. Brass Lancashire.
We finally had a game of Brass Lancashire, but unfortunately there was a rules error in it. And so it's got a bit of an asterisk. But I think I played enough of it that I know that it's subtly enough different to Brass Birmingham, and I love Brass Birmingham so much that I would be looking for a copy. In fact, there was a copy there that I didn't buy because I wanted to play with Joel's first, and then by the time I went back, it was sold. But I would have bought it then. I thought it was really, really good. Some really, really great interactions. I had some really good. I enjoyed that game quite a lot. But it was our tired morning, so we were snappy with each other anyway. So the rules mistake didn't help.
So yeah.
But anyway,
enjoyed it.
It doesn't matter. So yeah, I did enjoy it, and I think it was to the point where it was I played it enough, and I've played Brass Birmingham enough that I can see how it's the same but different, and it was it was me who messed up the rules. I just missed it. I missed that bit in the rule book, and I'm pretty sure you did. I agree, you did say at the start. Yeah, so that was Brass Lancashire, and then also when I was there, I bought Space Base. So that's a quite a good. So my 8-year-old son, absolutely loves Machikoro, and I find Machikoro good. I bought it in the first place, but it has a very, very, very limited lifespan in my eyes. In that it's just an obvious bet strat. And even with the expansion, there's an even more obvious best strat. And basically, whoever gets a tuna boat is the person who's going to win. Preferably 2 of them, and that's all luck as to what gets drawn out. So I got a bit fed up of it. So I wanted something similar, but at the same time with a bit more game to it. And then that's where buying Space Bases come in. And we played our first game. It was a bit longer than I first thought. Quite a slow start, but I think once you played your first game, there's a kind of element to it where they start you off with a few ships straight away. It's quite a fun game. It's very similar to Machikoro in that sense. In that on your turn you throw the dice, but you've got a bit more choice because you can, instead of taking just the total dice roll, you can pick to either split the 2 or to, as in say you rolled a 5 and a 1, you can take that as a 5 and a 1, the 2 separate numbers, and get what you've got under your 5 and 1 slots, or you can take it to 6 and get what you've got under your 6 slot. So, it's quite a bit more choice. No downtime because again, everybody is most of the time can benefit from other people's dice rolls, because when you buy a new card for your new ship for your for whatever number slot you've got in front of you, 1 to 12, because you start off with a set of 12 that gives you something for every number. You take the old one and kind of turn it over, and it's got a little symbol that means that if that number comes up on someone else's turn, you get a little benefit, so you can keep your income going. And there's some interesting ways of kind of maxing your income. And then you've got there's also things you can earn instead of just money. You can also earn points. That's first to 40 points. Always happened in our game with my 6-year-old. The first to get the magic card that says when you charge it 3 times, you instantly win the game, which is what she did a turn before I won.
Brilliant. That's the perfect game then, isn't it?
Yeah, it went really well. It was good fun. Actually, I was quite impressed with it. Actually, I was worried to be a bit heavy, but they got the hang of it, so that was good. And we've talked about Dorfromantik.
I'd had some promo cards for that, and I gave them away to someone else who had Space Base.
Ah, boo.
Yeah, wow.
It's all right. Anyway. Promos normally upset things anyway.
I don't think it's just like the same thing, but just different, or maybe even just different artwork. So yes, right. It's a long episode already, so I think it's best.
Yeah, we better start.
Finish it up and call it a night. Thanks to the guys for joining me on this episode and still continuing the podcast, even though we're now
Joel.
Three figures.
Triple figures.
Yeah. Let's keep it going. So yeah,
what's
thank
triple
you guys.
Figures? Oh, our episode numbers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not listeners. Yeah. We're still in single figures.
I think we are triple figures now, actually.
Well, doesn't matter. We just enjoy doing this.
One and one.
Definitely triple figures. So yeah, anything we've talked about in this show tonight, you can check out in the show notes. So if you need, and there should be links and everything to it, so you can click on it and it will take you straight to articles and games we talked about. And yeah, stay tuned for the next podcast. I don't know what it's going to be because I haven't looked at what the schedule is, and we'll be back maybe with a guest this time. So yeah, cool. So check it out. So thanks guys, and have a good night everyone.
Bye all.
Bye.